before you get to see me in May, is the lovely thing you're going to love me for, cold showers. So not like, we're not talking, yeah, it has to be cold the entire way through, okay? And I'm going to caveat it with cold showers are the worst thing ever. But if you want to do 10 miles and also, you know, you've got an injury and you're not able to swim that much, experiencing cold water up to maybe, you know, just try it once a week. Maybe, ideally, you want to be doing it 3 times a week.
She's trying to kill me. Okay, so that's a bit dramatic. I think if people were dying left and right from cold plunging, we'd be hearing about it. But really, this video isn't about cold plunging for all the health benefits you typically hear about. This is about cold acclimatization. The point is that I'm working on this swimming thing so that I don't die, and I should probably also work on the cold thing. So this week, I started doing cold plunges in a nearby river, and I opted for the river instead of the shower because I knew if I did it in the shower, it'd be way too easy for me to just move the dial to warm. From chatting with Becca and doing some personal investigating, cold water acclimatization requires a different approach compared to the kind of cold plunging you hear about on health and fitness podcasts.
Day one. Day one of doing that. Just 4 more months to go. It's gonna get easier. Here we go.
So one of the big differences between cold plunging for the sake of cold plunging and cold plunging for the purposes of acclimatization is that you're not staying in the water for a predetermined amount of time. You're not setting a timer for 1 to 3 minutes and trying to stay in as long as possible. You're listening to your body and you're trying to get out when you feel uncomfortable. That's because you're using this as a tool to slowly build up your psychological and physical resilience.
Okay, come on. Oh yeah. It's fine. It's totally fine. It's fine. It is fine.
One of the most obvious reasons you're doing this is because you're working out how to stay present in the moment and judge and manage your own reaction to the cold, which is necessary for staying safe, especially if you're training for a long distance swim. This is more about slowly building up instead of going balls to the wall. Okay, so what do I mean when I say acclimatization? Here are just some of the adaptations that may take place when you start acclimatizing. First, there's habituation, which means that you're developing a decreased psychological response to the cold. Specifically, our vasoconstriction and shivering responses become blunted. And scientists think this reduced response is linked to a decrease in norepinephrine, which is a hormone that triggers vasoconstriction when exposed to cold. Essentially, your body produces norepinephrine in response to stress, which triggers attention and focus, and also vasoconstriction. What this is saying is that the more you get into cold water, the more of a tolerance you build for it, and it doesn't become so stressful.
It actually didn't feel as bad as yesterday. It still felt pretty bad though. Woo! Woo!
Secondly, there's a metabolic adjustment that occurs, which means that you have a higher resting metabolic rate when in the cold. This allows you to maintain warmer skin temperature with less shivering when exposed to the cold, which occurs via non-shivering thermogenesis, otherwise known as heat production without active shivering. And then thirdly, you have an insulative adjustment. This is the redistribution of blood flow using the body's own structures in order to keep the core warm. What I understand this to mean is that more blood is being used to prioritize the warmth of the core as opposed to the warmth of the limbs. If you watched the first video, Becca was talking about the 3 responses to cold and how one of the responses is that the core gets cold, and this can be the longest to rewarm at the end of a cold water plunge. So in an ideal world, the core is not getting as cold as fast. But this does mean that it can be more difficult to warm up your limbs post cold water swim.
Yeah! There's no one here. I'm celebrating with the sheep.
What I will say is that as many papers as I found on cold water acclimatization and these adaptations, I found an equal number papers that talk about how the human body doesn't really adapt to cold water in the same way that we adapt to heat, and if that we are adapting to that, it's a highly individual process. But what I've taken away from all of this is that like every fitness tool on the planet, like every diet on the planet, it's highly individual. But that doesn't mean that you should just not try it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying it. Because given that I'm going to be jumping into a cold body of water and swimming 10 miles in a couple months, I want to do as much for my body as I can that I have control of to make that experience easier and safer. And for those of you who want to know the specific protocols I'm using, basically I go down to the river minimum 3 times a week. If I have extra time, I'll try to just get down there and then jump in. And I'm staying in there anywhere from 1 to 4 minutes. But again, I am not setting a predetermined amount of time. I'm trying to listen to my body. I'm trying to calm myself down. I'm trying to see how everything feels while I'm in there. And it's been a really different experience compared to when I'm doing a cold plunge and all I'm thinking in my head is like, when is this over? When is this over? When is this over? When is this over? With the cold water acclimatization has been really interesting because of how my focus has changed. Because I'm looking for how my body's responding. So, and hopefully the next time you see me, I'll be lounging on a cold British beach with a pack of seals. Thank you so much for watching this video. When it comes to this swim series, I'm trying to do weekly video releases, so if you want to stay up to date on those and see what I'm doing, please hit that subscribe button. If you enjoy it, you can also tell your friends, that'd be cool. And I'll see you next week.